For some maintenance to the mechanical agitation assembly, you may need to loosen the pickup cab end of the shaft assembly. To do so, use a 1/2-inch wrench to loosen the set bolt on the pickup cab end of the shaft, or the rear of the tank. This set bolt is holding a lock collar in place. Once the collar is loosened, the rear of the shaft assembly will be free to move for the disassembly of the opposite side of the mechanical assembly. On the front of the assembly, you will need to remove a shear bolt for the final step to remove the entire internal shaft which holds the paddles. To do so, you use a 1/2-inch wrench to loosen the set bolts. Once the nuts are loose and the bolt is removed, the shaft will be free. To disassemble the driven end assembly of the mechanical agitation, you will need to undo the chain assembly. The two ways of doing this are: first, loosening up the slide plate of the engine pump assembly, and once loose, remove the chain, or second, unclipping the connecting link of the chain assembly using a needle nose pliers as pictured. Once the connecting link is undone and the chain is removed, you will need to take a 5/32 Allen wrench to loosen the set screw holding the driven sprocket and remove it. Once the sprocket is removed, you will need to disconnect the grease line attached to the hub assembly. This will take a 1/2-inch wrench. Next, you will need to loosen the large brass lock nut on the bushing assembly. It is best to use a crescent wrench for this. Once the brass lock nut is loose, you can spin out the packing nut which compresses the graphite packings that keep the shaft assembly from leaking the tank's contents. This packing nut is also what you adjust if your shaft has a drip or a leak. You will want to tighten and recompress the packing glands to reseal the shaft. Don't forget to retighten the lock nut. After the packing nut is removed, you can take the final component out of the tank, the gland body. The gland body is what holds the graphite packings that seal the shaft. This is the component that also feeds grease to the assembly to reduce the wear. Once the gland body is removed, you can access and remove the front shaft sub-assembly. Make sure to remember, if the main shaft on the inside of the tank is not unbolted from the front shaft, it will not come out of the tank.